What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Reality Kingdom, where we put the real in reality or whatever. Period. I'm your
Period.
host, Pharaoh. We're joined by one of our co-hosts, Lee. Lee, Big Brother,
What?
Big Brother Canada, because your face, and it made me think that Big Brother Canada has no promo right now. Big Brother Canada is coming up in 2 weeks, but you wouldn't really be able to tell. But hey,
Mm-mm.
we're here.
I just feel
We're
like
here
it's
to tell
kind of
everybody.
dead on social media. Like no one really is like the anticipation that usually comes from a Big Brother season approaching is really, really not there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of discussed that. I think it has a lot to do with the not being any live feeds.
Mm-hmm.
The girls aren't really tuned in like that. So I don't know what it's going to give this season. I think maybe once they start rolling it out, we'll see a lot more. Because it's really just like our timeline. So I don't know if anyone else has seen something different, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not seeing any type of hype for this upcoming season at all.
Not seeing anything, but hey, we're here to, I guess, do the hype for you. So to
Period.
go to the
We're the
title,
hype, bitch. Get into it.
get into it, bitch, because we will be covering the whole entire season, live feeds or not, we'll be there.
Right.
But today, if you don't know the title, we are going to be tier ranking every final two of Big Brother Canada history, her story. This should
Mhm.
be fun, bitch. So honestly, let's just hop right into this bitch. I know that's the fuck, right? So what's interesting about this is I feel like I've never done something where it's like we gotta consider two people, but we gonna do it today. I know that's right.
Yeah, and I also want to say definitely if you guys have any ideas that you would like us to like do for any like preseason, off season, just like anything that you kind of like want to see us talk about for Big Brother Canada or Big Brother in general, definitely let us know. We will take account into all suggestions. Cause girl, sometimes, child, we just be coming up with anything, which is
We just
exactly
be
what
we just
this
gotta do
is, bitch. We
we just
we were
gotta
like,
do something.
let's do something. Let's get something. Let's just hype because we really just want to talk about the show. Like Big Brother
Yeah.
Canada's coming up. We like doing these preseason videos for you guys. So if there's any
Mm-hmm.
ideas that you would love to see us do, throw it out there. Keep it cute because sometimes the suggestions be like, y'all know damn well we work full time
They'd be like,
jobs.
oh, rank all 300 players.
We is not doing that. We gotta get a little bit less jobless for that. We still have two full time jobs. Okay, working overtime at that bitch. So we try our best to get this shit out, but definitely throw us some suggestions and we will take them into account.
Mm-hmm. Period. So let's get into it. First off, we're going to be starting with Big Brother Canada 1. The final two of that season was Jillian and
Jillian and Gare, and of
Gary.
course the deserving winner, Gary.
Uh, of course, the
We've
deserving winner.
discussed
Winner
this.
being Gary.
We've discussed
Um,
this. We've discussed this. Like
Jarvis.
the girls who don't know, you should know. But Gary's closest friend, Topaz, accidentally voted the other person in the final two, causing Jillian to win. What'd she say? No, Arissa, no!
Arissa, it was switched.
Someone
It
switched
was
it.
switched.
My
Someone
thing
switched it.
is
It's crazy.
Topaz. Who switched
Someone
it,
switched it. It's
Topaz?
crazy.
Y'all all seeing that? I
Someone switched it.
really
It's
want to know
crazy.
what was going through my sister's mind. Did she think it was still an eviction vote?
I think she thought it was a vote to evict, which I think makes we don't get off of her. I think that makes every time she's voted, it was because she didn't want them in the house.
Oh, so why
So
are we
I think
switching it up
she was just
at the
keeping she was
finale?
keeping consistent. She
So
was
so
keeping it
honestly, Big Brother is the problem because why
Big
are we
Brother is the
voting to
problem.
evict except into the final two?
Randomly. Randomly. Child. So when it comes to Jillian and Gary, I guess what are your thoughts on Jillian?
Yeah, let's analyze them individually first. I feel like
Yeah.
I like Jillian a lot. We've talked about
Oh,
her in a few of our other videos. I didn't hate her. I always really am here in support a strong woman. She won 4 HOH competitions that first
she
season,
did.
tied the overall record in both North America as a whole.
Period.
And I just feel like a lot of people would give Emmett a lot of the credit in the showmance, where I feel like they would kind of discredit Jillian, which usually happens in male-female relationships in these shows. Like I think the
Mm-hmm.
woman isn't the one controlling or just being ran. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really get that from Jillian. I felt like Jillian was making a lot of decisions, a lot of hard decisions. She was the one pissing off a lot of people. Like they definitely worked in
Mm-hmm.
tandem with each other. He didn't just like stample all over her.
Mm-hmm.
Her as just like the overall winner for the season. I mean, as a gay black man, I wanted Gary to win, and no one can
Period.
make me feel sorry about
Gary
that.
did win.
And the gag about it is that Gary literally won. It doesn't matter how you see Gary as a player. If you're upset that he got evicted and came back, Gary won. Big Brother won. I'm sorry, Jillian's name is just on the check.
Clock it.
But Gary won it.
Period. He literally got the votes. I
understand what you like. Her and Emmett, like, for this being the very first season of a Big Brother Canada, like, I think they really just kind of like show some of like the building blocks for how this show can, build and grow in the Canadian, country lines.
Yeah, I do like that. For Jillian, like you said, what did you say? You said that a lot of people see showmances and they kind of just see him as the man running the woman, and that Emmett just kind of ran her and that it was more even and stuff.
Right.
I feel like I'm one of those people. Emmett ran her. I'm not really gagged by Jillian. I don't feel like Jillian did that much at all. She won them comps.
Hateration in this dancery.
And moved on. So Jillian, I'm too high on Jillian. I'm also not too low on her, though. I feel like a lot of people like fully discredit her. She very much so did have a lot of good personal relationships at a point, and then she kind of messed them up with a lot of her comp wins, and that's why she wasn't able to get the votes at the end. But what's he? You got some facts?
She is the first female house guest to beat a male in Final 2, period.
She didn't beat a male.
Before Casey and Nicole. And
she didn't beat him. She didn't beat him.
She did.
See, and she didn't get the votes. She didn't get the votes. And that's
every time Jillian was HOH, her intended target was always a male. Period, Jillian.
I love that for her. I do love that for her. I do love that for her. You raising your hand. So I don't know. I don't hate Jillian that much, but I also don't love her. For me, Jillian's kind of mid. Jillian's kind of mid for me. She's mid, and then the fact that she did end up winning over Gary over this, it kind of makes me have a distaste for her. So for me, I think she's mid, a little bit lower just because of the circumstances, but not because of actually what happened. I feel like based on actually her season and what she did, she's just okay for me. Like, okay, you did what you did. Congratulations. Love that for you. Sure. So that's her. Gary, that's my mom.
Right. Because I feel like when we're ranking this Final 2, I feel like some people could definitely use the argument, well, Gary was all the way evicted and then he's in Final 2. So is that really, would this be considered a top tier duo at the end?
And this is my thing. Gary, when it comes to, this is how I feel, when it comes to the his overarching game overall, including him making it to Final 2, because that's still a part of his game, I feel like he is just as impressive as a lot of these people who've made Final 2 in Big Brother Canada. Even though he got evicted and came back, I feel like he had a very big underdog story, and I think that really makes me feel a connection to his game a lot more. Honestly, I kind of like his game a lot more than a lot of other finalists in Big Brother Canada. I'm thinking through, and it's like, I love that Gary was this big underdog and he was able to make Final 2, even though he had to come back. It's like he was underdog. Of course he had to. Of course he had a lot of adversity, and I feel like he had so much adversity. He came back and then he still made Final 2. It's like, it's impressive to me. You just don't have to be mad about it, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. And he did get 4 of the 7 jury votes.
He did.
So it's like he really won. So I don't know what to tell y'all. So
I think the only neg would be him coming into the game so late. I mean, he came in basically back at like Final 5, right?
Yeah, it was.
At that point, it wasn't like the thing is, I don't want to judge people too much. Like at the end of the day, based off the situation, he did what he needed to do. Like he came back in the game, he forged this relationship with Jillian and Emmett. He basically used that to catapult himself into the Final 3, eventually Final 2. So it's like a lot of people would have came back in this game and did not do that work. Yeah. But he actually did. And I feel like even when going home, he didn't go home because he was hated. He went home because people loved and respected him. They knew sitting next to Gary, it's probably going to be hard, winning the game. And I feel like it just sucks. I genuinely wish that BBK 5 was a real all-star season, because I feel like he's one of the few people like whose legacy definitely diminished that season because of the circumstance. Like he went home pre-jury. I mean, he went home pre-jury technically twice in BB history. And it's just like, I feel like he's definitely someone that could have been just like an all-time player. And BB 5 kind of just, I don't know, kind of left a bad taste in my mouth with Gary.
He made jury on the first season. He made jury on his first season.
He got 9th.
Yeah, he got 9th. And then they voted between the first 4 jurors. And
okay.
He got back.
So he's
But
still that girl. He's still that girl. But
he's
the
still
way
that
he
girl.
went out
But
in Weekend 5 was just
yeah,
like,
because that
oh,
was
we didn't really
backwards
get to see
week.
him play. And
He
it's
went
like,
out in backwards week. That was weird.
Right.
We didn't get to see enough of him. That was weird. It was, yeah, I agree with that for BB Cam 5 for real. But I think overall, I think another thing about Gary is like, to me, when I think of Big Brother Canada and some of the legends, Gary is just a legend to me. He was like one of the he's like the OG, really. He's the OG All Star. Like he's the first person who was like, you're an All Star. You were on season 1. You're the main All Star of season 1, and that's why you were brought back for season 5. I feel like to me, when I see Gary, I just think OG. So I guess when it comes to both of them in this final two, I think it got to at least be Camp for me.
I think Camp, a solid Camp.
I think it's a solid Camp. I think Jillian's gameplay is definitely up there, and I think that rises then when it comes to the gameplay. Gary's wasn't bad, and I think both of them are iconic in their own right. But there's definitely some other final twos who are mothering it out, you know.
Yeah, it's
So
a
I think
mother
they
off.
definitely.
This wasn't.
This
was
was
a
not a
mother
mother
off,
off.
but for different reasons. Like maybe
This
mother
was
was
a
a
daughter off
stepmother,
almost. Like it was kind of like a sister off.
a doll off. They were dolling.
Yeah, it's like they were definitely offing, but it wasn't two mothers for real. Not like that.
It was mother
for the first
and
season,
Jillian.
great final two for the first season. I will say
I agree.
They started off with a bang. A woman and a gay man.
Gay black man at that.
Gay black man. Y'all ain't doing it like this in America.
Right.
Know that. Now run that. Season 2
Oh, girl,
was.
they never gave it up like this in America. Not in this era.
Season 2 was child, and I'm gonna be honestly, who?
You're not gonna do. You talking about some.
I'll be honest, y'all. I've seen a lot of Big Brother Canada seasons, but Big Brother Canada 2, I've seen most of it, half of it, and then not the other half. Not even most, half of it, and not the other half. And I can tell you who these two people were from a dog on the street. Like, I'm just being honest. I'm just being real. I'm being real. I know one of them cut Netta. John asked. I can speak on John because from my understanding from John is he allowed Miss Mother Netta to carry him to the fucking final 3, and then he cut her ass, and that's all I know about it.
It's very similar to BB Can 5. If you watch BB Can 5, Drew and Diane, that's exactly what this relationship is, almost to a T. Minus they weren't a showmance on the show. Drew and Diane was, but they became a showmance after. So it's like, well, I guess it's not a showmance because they're on TV, but a relationship has started, and it was definitely giving tension while in the game. Like I was not shocked that they got together after. But I want to focus on Sabrina first because she's the girl. You've probably seen the clip where she's like, "You want good TV? I want to give you good TV." Like her,
I've seen her. She has a lot of arguments, doesn't she?
She does.
I think I've seen a few clips.
I feel like Sabrina, she started off the game pretty strong because this is the season where they had that first 5 alliance. The first 5 people came in, they got together and they linked up.
Is she the one who snitched on them?
Yes. So we see this a
lot. Oh God.
She switched on the girls to them. So we see this a lot of people in Canada. The people come in, they're like, "Oh, this group, come on, let's stay together." We see this so much, but it almost never lasts. This time, it was actually lasting, and they were really shaking shit the fuck up to the point where, like, Canada, it took Canada to step in, quite literally. But the big thing, and this is what turned a lot of people against Sabrina. I know I did not like Sabrina for this week because it was like the first 5 was the true allegiance of the game, but there was a girls' alliance. So during Ika's HOH, the girls were all working together. Ika was leading with an iron fist. The house was against Paul, but she didn't want Paul to go home. So it was just like, "What are you doing?" She was like, "I want Heather out," which is another girl. The girls was just like, "Why are we going after Heather?" It was just a lot, but basically everything that Ika was saying about the house, the men in the house, things like that, they went right back to the first 5. So she, like Sabrina and her good girlfriend Rochelle, exposed all of that shit. And basically, once that happened, of course, with other things, the house turned on Ika. But at that point, the first 5 is in control of the game. Like the first 4 weeks, like they had complete control. And then Canada got HOH. When Canada went HOH, they took out like the leader of the first 5, and their power kind of went from there because like the string of HOHs was like Netta structure. Netta kind of picked up the game and ran with it. And one of the people she picked up was John, which I will say I don't want to shit on John too much, only because it's like the same reason why you can't shit on Drew. Like I can respect someone that was put in a position to where, okay, I'm part of this like first 5 thing. I can't remember if he was like in the alliance, but he definitely was affiliate. He was on that side of the house. And once they crumbled, he jumped ship. And he was Netta's loyal ally all the way up until the end. Like, from what I remember, there was no conversations about John wanting to cut Netta. That did not happen until it was literally at the decision-making time, like that week before it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think in that last minute, he just did what he had to do for the win.
It was good.
I can't fault him for that. I think like just John as an overall player, though, it's like, it's just that player. I mean, he's well liked. People want to invite him in, but it's all about how you capitalize on that. And I think John does that well. Like, if there's an all-star season, I think John could be set up really well. Just socially, he's one of those people that everyone's going to be like, I don't see people worrying about him as a winner. And I don't see people being like scared of him, because the person doing the heavy lifting in BB 2 was Netta. So it's like he could definitely use that to his advantage and potentially win again.
So during that time where Netta and John were like leading the charge, Netta was leading the charge, what was Sabrina doing? Because her whole alliance is gone. Or
just sitting there. They really didn't deal with Sabrina and Rochelle at that point. Okay. They're like, there's nothing to deal with. We're not scared of them. They knew Sabrina couldn't win literally anything. Rochelle could win comps, and she ended up going home because of that. But they knew Sabrina was not going to be a threat, and that's why John took her. Ended up taking her to the final two. I think if anything, Netta should have done was made sure Sabrina weak ass wasn't there, because he would have been forced.
It's just an obvious blaring, I'm going to take this. Like, this person is just so much weaker than you.
It was so annoying, because there was one week where, and at this point, I root for anyone who's in the minority. So I hated Sabrina and them at first, but then when they got into the minority, I liked them. And then there was one week, I think it was against Adele, Sabrina, Heather, and Rochelle. No, not Heather. Sabrina, Rochelle, and Allison could have like voted together and saved him, but they didn't. It was a weird situation, but basically they did not take advantage of that at all, and they ended up going basically back to back after that. Like, Allison went home, Rochelle went home. So it's just like she like them as a group, specifically Sabrina, she had a chance, I feel like, to get that power again. But it's like, it's very clear she wasn't just period that good. Like,
she's not that savvy of a player.
She quite literally only got taken to final two because John knew he could beat her. She was very, very disliked.
Okay, I see that. So in comparison to Gary and Jillian, you feel like of these two, do you feel like both Gary and Jillian kind of are eating both of these two up, or do you feel like
ease? Yeah, I think with ease. Well,
that's how I see it. I don't know.
I do respect John's game. I think that his game is probably social game is probably better than both Jillian's and Gary's slightly. Maybe just overall in general. Because I do think Jillian and Gary, it's easy for them to be seen as threats. Like, John was never seen as threatening during his season. And you would think this big guy, he can win competitions. People were really going to be like, he has to go, but that was never the case.
Okay, interesting.
So I think John, he probably
looking at these two final twos. But I guess, okay, as a pair, John and Sabrina, this is this final two versus the Jillian and Gary final two. Jillian and Gary, I think, are both
together
a stronger pair than these two as a final two. So I would definitely put below Jillian and Gary. But I have heard a lot of positives about John, and I do like that.
I would argue that this might be. I would argue this is mid, only because it's mid for a lot of reasons. Like, when I'm thinking of BBK 1, I'm like, I mean, Jillian ran the season the entire time with Emmett, and Gary is Gary. So
and Gary sadly made it to the end. And then when I think of BB2, I think of Netta. I don't think of either of these two people.
Only Netta.
I think of just
and
Netta. I think of Netta, and then I know John Cutter, and it's like, that's good for you. But in general, it's like the two of the people who I feel like had a lot of influence in the game were in the final two with Gary and Jillian. And then these people, I think, were just, they made it. Congratulations. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel on that. Next is Big Brother Canada 3. That is Sarah and Godfrey. Two very well-liked players. I hear so much about Godfrey, and I hear so much about Sarah. I hear a lot about Godfrey. So there's that on that. How are you feeling about Godfrey, though?
It's like a player rating. How are you feeling about Godfrey?
I'm interested.
I mean, he played really good this week. No. I definitely like Godfrey. I see why a lot of people like him as a person. Like I think he's kind of just that quintessential like underdog character. Like I definitely while watching BB Can 3, never in a million years thought Godfrey would be in the final two. But I think that the type of game he played, it makes sense also why he didn't win it because he was just never kind of in that forefront as a major player. So I think like
Mm-hmm.
throughout the season, no one was able to kind of respect what the minute moves he was doing throughout the game, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
then Sarah kind of had this duo with Brittany that was kind of just like the vein of like every majority alliance that sees in existence. Like they could not get out Brittany and Sarah. Like week
Mm-hmm.
after week, Brittany could win an HOH or someone else became a bigger threat. It just kept being like Brittany and Sarah, Brittany and Sarah. So when Brittany then goes and Sarah makes it to the final two, you know, she can kind of take credit for all of those moves, whereas Godfrey is this lone wolf. Who is vouching for Godfrey? Who is telling us
Mm-hmm.
that Godfrey deserves to win this game? Not really that many people. And I just think that
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, like these are two underdogs, and I love that they both kind of make the final two together. But Sarah's story was just a tad bit stronger. Tad bit
I think
stronger.
that makes a lot of sense, and I see that. I've heard from a lot of people about Godfrey that he was kind of like a savvy little floater, and
He was.
people were saying
He
if
was.
he's
This is
on All Stars, he could sneak his way to the end
especially in the
again.
Bob POC season.
Ooh,
Godfrey probably wins, and that's really what
ooh.
it is. Like he played a great floater strategy. He was
Mm-hmm.
never an enemy in this game once, and he was able to move so effortlessly between. Okay, I'm working with Brittany and Sarah this week, and Cindy. Okay, next week I'm here with the Alpha Bros, and then this
Yeah.
week I'm doing this here. And he was also a player where it's like, for example, the big week where you know Cindy orchestrates the eviction against her showman. It's like
Mm-hmm.
Godfrey was a pawn in that story where it was like I did not think that he would turn against the majority in that way, and he was so willing to go after the power, and then to be able to actively participate in it, and then kind of go out like scotch free. You know,
Mm-hmm.
similar to John, like there was never a time I recall Godfrey being a
The
threat, and that
target.
was definitely the
Yeah.
game he was trying to play. He never wanted to come off too threatening. He always wanted both these groups, any side of the game, to feel like they had him, and they all did. So I think looking
Mm-hmm.
back, going into the intricacies, Godfrey definitely probably should have won. But at the end of the day, Sarah is mainly only there because of the coup d'etat, Chris. He
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't even been next to her, and that's the difference. Without the twist, Sarah probably does not make round two, but Godfrey probably still
Probably
does make
still
round two.
does. Yeah.
But who does Godfrey
There,
beat?
I feel like Sarah's story is so it reminds me, it's just like the underdog story. Like I think of I don't know, I kind of think of Rachel Riley for some reason. But like if she would have made it to the end, because it's like you were struggling with your partner and y'all had to literally win so many competitions to make it to the end, and a little bit of help from, a twist. But it's like it's still like the story of Rachel or Taylor or these underdogs, it always seems to trump in Big Brother anybody else. Like if you were underdog for a while, or if you were the one who a lot of people in the house weren't working with and people were targeting you and you make it to the end, it seems like that person always trumps, even if the other person played better, even if the other person plays happier. It's like Sarah's story, I feel, just seems more in your face than Godfrey. Godfrey is just like you made it. But Sarah is like, girl, we were trying to get you out. You and Brittany were never in an alliance. We never even wanted to work with y'all. And now you're here in final two. So I feel like that's what happens with these underdog stories. Like you really just end up getting the votes. It happened with Gary. Gary got the votes too. I feel like in both situations, it's like you really gonna get the votes if your story is
It is
more impressive. I feel.
because the game is about so many things, and someone's personal story, how they got there. It can be emotional. It can be strong, and I think that's what Sarah was. And I feel like
Yeah.
I've talked about this before on the podcast, but Sarah winning Big Brother Canada, literally up until I'd say Xavier and Taylor winning, maybe 23, 24, I've never felt as satisfied ever
Mm-hmm.
by a Big Brother winner. Never. I'm usually not satisfied.
Yep.
Like if I am, it's because I'm happy. Like Paul lost twice in a row. You know, it's not like I'm not genuinely happy for Josh. No shade. I kind of was happy for Nicole, but it still was just like I'm more so happy that this man lost a little bit. So
Yeah.
it's like
Exactly.
like Sarah's win, it just meant it was like it meant like this is for the little people, and I hate
Yeah.
that Coop kind of shat on that a little bit because for the girls who don't know, Sarah and her duo partner Brittany during week 8 they were nominated and they were set to go home that week, but the twist was whoever Canada chooses as have-nots will have the opportunity to get a power. They chose Sarah and Brittany. Sarah and Brittany got the coup, and they used it to nominate two of the opposing alliance and get one of them out that week. After that, the HOHs went Sarah, Brittany. So like they really got on their ass nasty after that. But if Brittany, it would have been Brittany because Brittany was always a bigger threat. Sarah could have won that next HOH, but Brittany does not win that next one.
Yeah.
And Pilar goes home on that one that Brittany won. Pilar was a strong competitor as well as Ashley. They could have easily, like the final two probably could have been an assortment of Ashley, Godfrey, Ashley, Pilar, Godfrey, because they were just winning all of those competitions. So a lot of people do, put an asterisk on Sarah for that. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's Big Brother. It's Big Brother Canada. That twists are a huge part of the game, and it does affect some people. And I mean, hey,
I think like I've grown in Big Brother to just accept not just Canada, but also US, to accept that twists are just a part of the game. A lot of people say, well, Taylor couldn't go home week 1 because Paloma left. And what do you think of that? And Jag was evicted and Gary was evicted. And it's like, honestly, after some time has passed, and now that honestly there's winners that I care about, who it is affected, I don't care about the twist anymore. That's just a part of Big Brother. You're gonna have to be mad about it. But it also, it's just, I think it's just true. Rachel Riley has won her game. There's a lot of asterisks on that. Evil Dick has won his season. There was a lot of asterisks on that one. Jag now, Taylor, they say the Paloma thing. It's like, and even I was having arguments about Derek versus Dan, and even in that, people were saying, well, if Derek didn't have the what is it called? Battle of the Block twist. And I was like, well, Dan got to speak to a literal juror one-on-one. It's like, there's things every season that you could say were in a way unfair or it influenced the game. But it's like, that's just Big Brother at this point. And I think it's just something we have to accept. I don't see a knock on Gary's game that much because he got evicted, and I don't see a knock on Sarah's game that much because she got a coup d'etat. Honestly, like, they still won Big Brother. Like, everyone had the chance technically to get a coup d'etat, and everyone had the chance technically to come back. I mean, hey, it was just them. Sorry. So, hey, I don't know.
And I will say, like I said, because I got what I wanted in weekend 3, I definitely don't give a good goddamn.
Like I said, I wanted Taylor to win. I wanted Jag to win. So now I really don't care about that.
And that's the thing. But I will also argue, when I'm talking about Jordan's win in BB11, I'm not saying Jordan. I'm never bringing up the coup is the reason why Jordan wins, and you can do that, but I don't do that. Like, Jordan won because she is a good social player. I think that is a reason an attribute as to why she won. And I feel like Sarah, she had a lot of good qualities. She was always coming up with plans. She was always coming up with these ideas. And I think she was also good at just lowering her threat level. Like, at the end of the day, she was a threat. And she was never the one on the forefront. It's like, oh, we got to deal with Neha. We got to deal with Cynthia ass. We got to get Brittany ass. Like, even then, if the coup didn't happen, Sarah doesn't go. So then you don't know. Like, maybe if Brittany don't win, Pilar wins, they take out Godfrey. Maybe she can convince them to, look, let's do an all-girl final 3. Why is Godfrey still here? You just never know. And she was, I just feel like a player in that way. She was scrappy.
So where do you feel like they belong then? Because if we're saying, I mean, we see Gary and Jillian's in camp, and we see John and Sabrina's in mid. Do you feel like they're in between the two? Or do you feel like
they're in between the two?
I see it in between the two.
I do feel like they're teetering. They're on the cusp of mid, but I have bias towards both of them as players, so I want to put them in camp.
I actually see, honestly, I kind of see camp. I feel like, and this is the thing about the word camp in general, I feel like there's an energy to it, and I feel like the fact that there's a black man and a nerdy girl, nerdy woman, it's kind of similar to Gary and Jillian in a way, like, this is a black man and a woman in final 2. Like,
girl, what that alone in Canada, a black man gets that too.
Girl, like, that alone is, and they get second very often. One thing about black man, they gonna get second every damn season. But no, that alone is camp, and everything is about identity. But the thing about Big Brother is a game designed to reflect, the real world, and it's very atypical for in the real world for a woman, especially one who's like nerdy or whatever she want to call herself, and then a black man to succeed. So that alone is just a little bit more camp. I period. So for me, I agree. I do feel like they're camp. They just are a camp final 2. There's nothing else to say. They just are.
And very unexpected for the season, considering the alliance. Like, I mean, Kevin, Pilar, Zach, Bruno, Ashley. These were comp beasts of that season.
Yep.
And was in control literally since pre-jury. So it was crazy.
Now,
like they got their lick back like the week that they took out Jordan Parhar, Cindy, took out her showman. Like they got their lick back then. No more licks. No more licks.
Who's not camp is
you can go ahead and leave them where they are.
Yeah, I don't plan on moving these two or three.
And
well,
the thing about Big Brother Canada 4,
okay,
Big Brother Canada 4, it has good qualities,
but it's like a fever dream for you. It's fever dream.
It does. It feels like it didn't really exist. I mean, walking back, the main twist that season, they were bringing in these Universal Big Brother players. So we got Tim from maybe Australia. And then what was her name? Nikki, R.I.P. sister from the Celebrity Big Brother UK. Jace from BB5 was also an option.
Yep, he was.
That would have been.
I remember that.
Weird.
He looked. I remember seeing his picture and be like, "Who is this?" But it was.
It looked like he wanted to be like Ken, and from Barbie.
It did. It did. Oh my god! In every way.
Look a mess, a hot ass mess. And I just remember like
so
the
that just alone
choices,
was already off-putting.
Like the casting choices were, I think, great. Like I love me some Levita, love me some Sherry. I enjoyed Maddie. She was a little annoying sometimes, but she was fun. Dallas, who ended up being on BB Can 5. I loved me some Dallas. I was a pre-jury actually, but of course, Mother Cassandra, loved me some Joel. I loved everyone, but the eventual final two.
Yep. And
I even grew to love Kelsey a little bit. Like
this
Kelsey.
final two is very like this is. I want to say this is the most unlikable final two of Big Brother Canada. Like they're not.
Could be BB history.
BB history maybe. They're not rootable really. Neither of them because Kelsey. I grew to like Kelsey as well, but Kelsey was very insufferable to me in the pre-jury area, and it wasn't until she was in that little room with Levita and they were kind of bonding that I turned around on her, and then she came in the game and ended up making final two. And I feel like I preferred a Kelsey win in this situation, but even Kelsey, I'm not a big fan of, and neither were the people in the game, which is why they didn't vote for her. I feel like even when it came to the skill set, no shade, of this final two, neither set of them are, upper tier or even good. I would say honestly, when it comes to the game,
like the biggest move that Kelsey did was helped by production. Because for the girls that are not aware. She's also a player that was evicted and got brought back into the game and made final two. Look at her and Gary. But what happened was it was kind of the first iteration of a quote unquote fake double for BB Can. Her and Mother Levita were evicted from the game. Oh, I love Levita so bad. Oh, I love Levita so bad. Were evicted from the game and they got to go to this secret room for like a week and they got to peek into the game. Like sometimes they would have audio, but most of the time they didn't. And you get to see, okay, who's talking to who is literally aligned with who. So once Kelsey got back into the game, she used that information to take out one of the most strategic players that season in Mitch.
Yeah.
And I will say, I appreciate that a little bit because one thing that Kelsey had, she had a power structure. Her showman, and then Raul was kind of like a little third. So she used that to help take out Mitch. But in general, like she herself as a player, it's like it's slightly similar to Kayla, but she's just not as savvy as Kayla. Like, and I also don't think she doesn't have the full comparability either, and that really just doesn't help her because
she's like a lesser version,
right? Like she was able to spearhead that move very dominantly, but after that, her side was still disliked. I think the good thing about her is that no one was really looking at her as just too much of a threat. Like once she kind of came back, it was mainly her boyfriend. I think it was his name, Jared.
Yeah.
He was kind of the one everyone was worried about. Raul too, because he could win. Like people were not scared of Kelsey, and it wasn't because they respected her. It was because they just
they didn't like her, which is why she got voted out the first time. And then after that, it was way more clear that her boyfriend needed to be the one who was targeted. And that's what happened.
And I argue it's the same with Nick and Phil to an extent. For the girls who do not know, so a lot of things you need to know watching Big Canada because they do some crazy shit.
Why I just hate this twist so bad.
And I was gonna say, I think it's kind of tea, but I just don't like who they did it with. So Nick and Phil are actual real life blood brothers. In the twist this season, they were playing as one player. So 1 week, one person will be doing all the competitions. The next week, the other person will be doing all the competitions. But they are one player. They have one vote. If they win HOH, they have one. You get it.
Mm-hmm.
And neither one of them were good at the game. Like, I think people just kind of ignored them, and they kind of, and then so much was happening throughout the season. Like, so many targets just came out. I mean, Dallas, Maddie, Levita. It was target after target after target. So a lot of players like Cassandra, Joel, Tim, little savvier ones, they were kind of more able to kind of hide behind that. And you gotta have like Nick, Phil, and Kelsey, where I just think they were not threats because no one saw them as active
because they're genuinely not
the game. And then we got to the end game. I mean, they were really just winning everything.
Yeah, they just won a lot of comps. And
it literally went Nick and Phil, Kelsey, Nick and Phil back to back to back going into the final 3. Like, and then we have players like Cassandra, Tim, and Joel, who specifically Cassandra and Joel, I think, are very great savvy players. Like, I would compare like Cassandra. Who I compare Cassandra to? Is she comparable?
That's what I'm saying. She's very hard to compare.
I wanted to say Amanda Vanessa, kinda, but I don't even know if I can fully say that.
She's like a different. I feel like she's like an anti version of it. I don't know. She's like
kind of like an evolved Nicole from BB2, but definitely just like a very dominant, strong female strategist for the game. Yeah. Joel, he's kind of like that Ian Steve archetype, but definitely, I think, way more intelligent and intentional with his moves. But when we get to this end game, they can't win the competitions. Right, they just cannot win the comp, so they went home.
Yeah,
and that was that. Like, I remember being so sad because like Cassandra won her first comp. The first comp she won was because her dad came into the game and helped her, and she used that HOH to take out Jared, who was Kelsey's showman. But you still hear about Kelsey and Nick and Phil. And then when we get to top 5 and top 6, they're the only ones winning everything.
Yeah, very unfortunate. But like we said, they're staying at the bottom chop. And that's that on that. I have no more thoughts. No more
thoughts. Just shade. No more thoughts. Just shade.
No more thoughts. Just shade. Next is Big Brother Canada 5. This should be Ika and Dimitri, but it is Kevin and Karen. Now,
when you say it should have been Ika and Dimitri, that would have been nasty. It just should have been. Should we talk about them? Let's talk about them. Ika and Dimitri are just such
now their mothers.
They're still together. Their mothers.
Easily. Great final 2. One of the best final 2 in Big Brother Canada history. Ika winning made so much sense. She ran the entire season.
I've never seen someone run an entire season with so much just personality, finesse, vigor. Like, it's just like she is such a polarizing and just you can just obsess over Ika. Like, really it's like everything I would have wanted in a Big Brother player. A pretty bad bitch that's smart as fuck and running them to the ground.
Clock it.
Like, it's just like, and she's black.
Like, on top of that, it's the cherry on top.
Like, what else? What else can she give me? Like, like, without winning, and she won in my mind.
Not you really think talk about
winning. She really my mama, though. Made that season for me.
She's such a she is. I can't compare her. Honestly, really she's not terrible. She's one of a kind, really. But to me, she's really like a stepping stone. Like, what she did in this season to me felt like a stepping stone in Big Brother Canada history. It really felt. It was so important. Like, this was like a very put a pin in this in the entire history of Big Brother Canada. Like, this is a memorable performance. This is one of the best performances of Big Brother Canada. What's interesting with Big Brother Canada, though, is that a lot of the, I feel, best performances don't be winning, or at least in this era, in this this era of the Big Brother Canada. Like,
that happens a lot with women.
With Netta and Ika, it's like the way they ran their season so strongly, and it's also probably because they're women. Like, when it's a woman,
because Vanessa, Amanda, Diane.
Because I'd argue that Emmett, even though Jillian and Emmett were both equally good, I'd argue that Emmett had the most strategic influence in the first season, and then Netta in the second season, and then Ika in this season, and then it wasn't Kelsey or Nick and Phil in their season. So it's like I would argue like none of these seasons did the most. I feel I guess strategic person really won, and it's like how I don't know. A part of me that makes me itch. Part of it makes my ass itch. It does that Ika lost. I really wish Ika won, but she's not. Let's talk about that.
It sucks.
Who we don't want.
And it also sucks that it came down to competitions because if I recall correctly, like
Dimitri could have played in the Final Four. Yo, it was so random.
That and then also I was like, girl, like, because she won comps on she didn't. So I don't know what happened this season that she wasn't able to, but it's whatever.
But whatever. Karen is here.
But no, that's not the That was a fake twist that they made up. That they
it didn't actually happen.
He just actually lost to Kevin.
What is this?
But getting into the actual final two, and that's what we need to get into. That's what
that was very annoying.
Let's start with Karen though, because I think it's gonna be a little bit shorter. I love Karen, like the personality, but Karen the game player. Karen was just there to have fun. Okay, she was the oldest house guest that season, and a trend with people in Canada is that the oldest house guest goes home first. They send them out real quick. So Karen, she won the first HOH, and she said, "We're sending a man out, a big strong man, up out of this motherfucking game," and it was almost Dimitri. It was almost Dimitri, girl. But I love that she won that HOH. She took that control. She was like, "I'm getting one of these boys up out of here." I did. What it showed me with Karen that first week is I think she's just slightly easily persuaded because I felt like she kind of went in with the motive. These vets, I mean, the bigger guys are, the issue I feel like would have been the vets, but I will say the more athletic looking guys were all in the newbies. So, I mean, if the goal is a guy, like a big, strong guy, it makes sense, but it's just like you're also a newbie. And that first week, they were fully using Karen. Yeah. It was not, we want to work with Karen. It was not, we're going to include Karen in any actual deals or anything like that. We're going to use her, and they did so successfully. And like after that first week, she didn't win any other competitions. And the biggest thing throughout the season was her beef with Kevin. Now, entertainment-wise, loved it. I love that she made Final Two as the oldest woman house guest that season because we have kept seeing them go home first or just so early. But I just feel like Karen as just a player, I mean, it's one of the reasons why she made it all the way to Final Two. No one was worried about losing to Karen. Point blank in the period.
I did. I feel like a part of me likes the fact that Karen made it to Final Two because it's so rare when the oldest house cats in the house does make it to the end of the game. And I really like that. And I do feel like she had a lot of like heart. She did want to play the game. And I like that part about her too. But like you said, I just feel like the reason you made it to the end, no one really saw you as a factor. And she wasn't really a factor. She didn't really have any alliances. She really didn't have any strong like anything. Nothing in her entire game, I feel, was just memorable. And I feel like that's the issue, and that's why she lost and why she was just easily taken to the Final Two. So that part sucks, but I think just her being the oldest house guest is what I find still a little bit endearing about her being here. It's just cute to see. It's interesting to see. Love that for her, right? For sure. But other than that, it's just nothing there.
I like some like I like one move I know for sure. Like it's the week where Kevin had one HOH. He nominated Ika and Dimitri. Used veto on Dimitri because he wanted to make sure Ika went home. And that's that week where Karen, she got what's his name? She got that one dude, Dylan, and she was like, look, we need to save Ika so we can use them to go after Kevin. And it's like I definitely see the idea in that, but then it's like keeping Ika and Dimitri. But so like one person that ends up taking you to Final Two.
That's what I'm saying. I like how active active she.
She didn't give up. It was like Felicia.
She wants to play.
It was like Felicia.
It is like Felicia. Like you're going to play at any chance, but it's like it's just not always good or effective or the right thing to do, honestly. And that was kind of the down.
And I do think in the universe, Karen can win. It's just not sitting next to Kevin. Like if she's next to William, maybe even Dre, maybe even Dylan.
Yeah.
Karen wins this motherfucking game. Jackie, no one like Jackie. Karen wins this game. It's just she was in a scenario where she was in the Final Four with the three people who
are going to beat the fuck out of her. She was never going to win. Kevin, for me, and this is the thing, I kind of got to separate my feelings and my emotions. But for me, I've never loved Kevin, and I feel like Ika kind of ran this season in my eyes, and a
She
lot of
did.
Kevin's
It's not in your
and
eyes.
she
That's a
did.
fact.
Oh, say it louder for the bitches in the back.
That's no shade at all.
No, it is a fact.
If you can
She
acknowledge
did run
that
this
Ika
season.
ran this season to the ground, she is BB 5.
And
you weren't paying attention.
Kevin benefited from knowing the competitions very well.
Yeah.
And he was able to literally study the competitions to where he would be able to win the competitions when he needed to at the end of the game. But throughout the entire game, Kevin did not have control. He didn't even have control when he was HOH or when he was holding the veto and using it on Ika. Ika still had control at that point because she was making you use the veto on her, baby. Like it was never really, I feel like it was never really a point where I could genuinely say Kevin was actively, strategically moving parts in this game. It was simply just him winning the competitions. He had his relationship with William, and he had his relationship with, what is that man named?
Which
Bruno?
did come out to help him. William, that did turn out to help him.
Yeah, his relationship with William and his relationship with Bruno. Like these were things that were keeping him safe for the time being. But other than that, when he became a target, he was always a target, but he just started winning the competitions more so. Right. And it's like, that was kind of his game. And it's like, I feel like the part that makes it less impressive is the fact that we know he studied the competitions. To me, it's like, well, that's lame. Right. I don't know. And that sounds cheap, but that's how I feel.
I don't think it is. Like, it's not comparable because we've said this argument before. Like, Jag and Tyrell, who won Weekend 11. Like, if they did not win those competitions, they would have been out of the game. Kevin is the exact same way, but he has a prior knowledge. Like, he got a book, he studied them, he came up with strategies on how to win all of these competitions because Big Brother does not change their competition. So it's just a little bit.
And then he didn't play any. It felt like he didn't play any part of the rest of the game. Like he was only social with 2 people. Felt like you didn't make any other allies or friends like that. It was just like not successfully. Like you did nothing else successful but win comps. No shade.
That's the thing too. Dan and Cody are not the only BB legends who got on the traders and flopped. Kevin is in that category. Kevin got on
you better wake that up because I forgot.
And he did not do well. And it's because similar to I think a Dan, Kevin is never necessarily the best kind of like socially. Like he's good. Like for example, so in BB Can 5, like the main setup was the newbies versus the vets. Yeah. Once the vets kind of started turning on each other and breaking up, and Ika took Dimitri and started running basically the other half of the game. He was an immediate target, but he wasn't in the forefront. We had to worry about Bruno. We got to worry about Netta. Get her out of here. Cindy can win competitions. So, but by that point, up until that point, he was kind of just in the group. And then after that, he was just flailing. And I do respect, I have my own feelings about personally how he uses William in the way he did. But on the game level, it worked out. That was the week he was nominated, and Vito got used on him because of that relationship. But I think you are right in a way. Like a big aspect of this game is the social part, and I just feel like he really didn't have that at all at some point. Like no one really necessarily liked him. He was just beasting it out because he was able to study for these competitions. If he didn't get to study, or if the comps were different, he probably would go home.
And what was Kevin's first season? 3?
BB Can 3, and it was the same that season.
I was just gonna say, like, a part of my another part is it doesn't seem like you improved. Like from what I know from BB Can 3, it seems like he just did the same thing.
Because he was disliked in BB Can 3 at first too. And what happened, and that's what ended up getting Neha out. Remember, because the house didn't like Kevin because he seemed shady. But he heard the girls in the bathroom talking about going after the guys. Kevin shared this information, won HOH, took out Neha, and then kind of just like the aura of the house after that is we're all against Brittany, Sarah, and other Johnny, them. And he kind of just, got into a showdown with Pilar and just kind of went into that group, and it was crickets until he went home. Even him coming back in the BB Can 5, I was shocked because he's a player that has a lot of potential but it just never fully is expressed. And I feel like we still see that in BB Can 5. Like a main reason why he won is because he was next to Kim and he was able to get those competitions to get there. But it's like we talked about how impressive is that if he's able to study for them.
He reminds me of James Ryan from BB6.
James Ryan is a good example.
He's like, you have the potential to be a savvy player, and it's like you can tell like how much they. It seems like kind of want to be the savvy player, but are you really?
Yeah.
No
There
shade,
were a
but
lot
he
of
reminds me
things
of
that
James
he was
Harden.
trying to come up with and do in Weekend 5 that were
Mhm.
not gonna go anywhere. And I mean, if you act like if you watched it and you feel like there are all these other reasons, please let me know. Because I feel like the fact that he won HOH, won veto in the same week, used it in
Oh my
hopes
God.
that he could get out the other half of the showmans, and then they both stayed.
That's silly, isn't it?
That's the
Could never
silliest
be
thing.
one of the best players in my eyes.
Could
I'm sorry.
never be.
But
Could never
okay.
be.
So in comparison to these other ones, let's start at the bottom. I would say I would
Definitely
personally
higher
put them
than
above
Thor.
these two.
Yes.
Definitely higher than those two. Now these two comparable, maybe. I'd say
I'm
below.
fine
Me
with keeping him
personally.
after below. I am because
Yeah.
I think that Sabrina and Karen are a little bit more comparable, and I think
Mhm.
that John eats Kevin.
Yeah, I think so too. That's exactly how I feel. So right there, perfect. Good for me.
Perfect. You can keep this trash too.
Next is girl, and they're going right to where they belong. I'm so sorry.
I mean,
Kayla,
what are they?
other than
Mothers,
Mother Kayla,
icons,
Mother Paris,
queens, legends.
Mother Kayla and Mother Paris, there's not much more to say other than the fact that they're mothers. I feel like what I love, I'm sorry, I just hopped right into it. But what I love
This is
about
such a
this
great
final two
season.
so much, other than the fact that it's two women, there's so much I love. Because I love that it's two women. I love that they're both mothers. I love that they're the baddest bitches in Big Brother Country history. I love all of that. But other than all of that, I really love the duality of it all. Like I feel like when you talk about final twos and what they can encompass, I feel like if we're ranking the final twos and what they represent and what they encompass, to me, right now in my mind, they're the top tier because I feel like the ways you can play this game is either, not either, but two of the main ways you can play this game is the way Kayla played it, by very much so with an iron thumb. I'm gonna run this shit. I'm running my showmans. I'm winning these comps, and I'm taking these bitches out. Or
Period.
you play like Paris, where you're look. I'm just not going to be a target. I'm going to make sure I'm not a threat, and I'm going to make sure I slide my way to the end of this game. And I feel like they represent what Big Brother is in their own right, very much so. And I just love that they were the final two, and
Oh,
I
it's
just really
like
love
Dr.
them
Will and Nicole,
as a.
BB2.
It is like Big Brother
Damn.
2 with Dr. Will and Nicole because Nicole Shaffridge was really the iron thumb. Very much so. Kayla and Nicole are very similar, honestly, in the sense that they were like so. I feel like they didn't really care to be running the game the way they were running it. I feel like they just did it unapologetically and they knew they was eating it up and they moved along. And I feel like with Paris and Dr. Will are very comparable for many reasons because honestly, I feel like both of them were in a way at the mercy of the person who was running it. Like Paris had to just sacrifice her allies because Kayla was eating it up so much, and then she ended up
Barely
at the
did,
end.
but I will
It,
mention.
and it's like I feel like both of them are they're very comparable situations, and Paris ended up winning, and Dr. Will ends up winning. It was like very comparable. But
And
yeah,
I really I loved it too because they were in the first lines of the season. I can't remember the name, but it was Jesse, Paris, and
mm-hmm.
Kayla and her showman. I can't remember his name right now. Derek.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in this alliance and like they kind of stayed in it throughout the game. But Kayla
But
and
not
Paris
really.
both knew. They fought each other.
Yeah.
But it's just so cute that they came with the first alliance and they're in final two. And then also I always remember Paris saying preseason, I'm gonna win this game. I'm telling y'all, I'm winning.
She did.
And then the bitch went there like and won it. What I love about Paris, specifically about her game too, is that a lot of people want to play this under the radar, behind the scenes, and she kind of wanted to be more of that too. Like she kept coming up with these strategies that she wanted to have happen if the right person won. The right person never won. You know, she had her allies in what's her name?
What is their names?
Oh my god!
Let me look them up.
Pull it up. I got it right here. William and Maddie. They're all the way.
These are the same names from last.
Right.
Okay, we keep going.
She got those two people all the way into Final Five with her and the showmans of Kayla and Darren. And what a lot of people fail to do is they maintain safety for themselves, but not their group. These are two set votes. These are two set final twos that are going to take her to the end. They're going to keep her in this game that she can control if she wins HOH. And she made sure that in the plans, in the strategies that she did that were actually successful, that Maddie and Will were included in it. It was like a package deal. But Paris was never the bigger threat out of it. No one was scared of her, but that's because of the game that she wanted them to perceive her in that way. So I just think that was really, really savvy. Like, I mean, her big move, which is really the game-winning move, is when she went to Kayla and Derek, the big force in the game, the people winning all of the competitions, and she made that deal to where when a triple eviction comes, if you keep us safe, we keep y'all safe. The entire trio, bitch. And you would think, I mean, that's not gonna work. You're trying to promise safety for a whole group of bitch got it the fuck done. They went into Final Five, and even though she lost Maddie and Will, those are two buffers. So if they did win, she'd be in Final Two regardless. They didn't win, she still got the Final Three. And she was able to prove herself in the eyes of the jury by winning those last two competitions. And I think that's where it definitely comes in at with Big Brother, especially modern day Big Brother. You can't not just win no HOHs. Kevin did it. It's very rare. You have to win still have a comp. So in that end game, she really just put the cherry on top. With bitch, comp here, like, because Derek and Kayla were seen as this unstoppable duo that everyone was just like, we're tired of them. Because Derek and Kayla had been a threat since pre-jury. It was just a situation where too many people were targets in front of them. We like Kayla and Derek. We don't like Hamza. Jesse's a problem. Veronica's a problem. Marin.
Ali and Olivia became a problem randomly.
Right. And people were like I remember Erica, Johnny, they were like, we can just use Kayla and Derek. And then what happened was Kayla and Derek started winning shit. And I remember it was the powers to be were kind of like Erica and Johnny, Kayla, Derek, and Paris had her structure. You got Alejandra doing shit. Like, there were so many factions this season. Such a great season. Watch BBK 6. Great season. But Kayla won the HOH. This is right before jury, I believe. And the twist is America can save one of the house guests at eviction. They end up saving Ryan. And right then and there, she had to renominate. She ended up renominating Erica, the front runner of the season, the most loved of the house, literally the person she's in an alliance with. Because Erica had to go. And from that point forward, Kayla took that shit and ran with it. Her and Derek really was just beasting through and winning every fucking thing. Like, it was so iconic. And in the week where they didn't win, they still didn't even take Kayla out. She was literally nominated next to Alejandra and stayed that week. In a week where she really should have been the one going out, but it's because she kept that allegiance with Paris in those two votes. Like, so it's like they both really used each other to get to Final Two, even though they hated each other the entire time. It's kind of similar to June and Alice in a way, where it's like, bitch, we don't even like each other, but girl, we had to get here.
Yeah, it is. The thing I love about this Final Two the most is, like, specifically Paris winning, I feel, is when I'm thinking of a lot of these other BB winners so far that we've rated, a lot of them I have an asterisk by, whether it's rightful or not. Like, in the back of my mind, even though I feel like I don't heavily include it, it's still like with Jillian, Gary got them votes. With Sarah, there was that coup d'etat. With Kevin, girl, you had to study. Like, Nickville, who are y'all? So it's like, for me, Paris was the first winner that I felt like you bodied this. Like, you did exactly what you needed to do, and you made it to the end, and you won. Like, I really respected her. And honestly, this Final Two, it was like two of the, like, best players in the game. Like, the two best players in the game really, like, made it to the end of this game. And I really, really love that for this. I don't know. I feel like this Final Two really encompasses a Final Two for me.
Like, and it's also an example of women ran this season down. The women that season that they had to do a segment at the finale. Like, y'all ran it. And usually when it's a woman ran season, a man still doesn't look like it winning. So I love that women ran it and a woman ran at the end. It was a woman Final Two. Like, they ate it and they deserved it. It wasn't on some, people always try to say, they only voted another woman because they're a woman. It wasn't on none of that. These are two badass bitches that got the Final Two on their own. I would both of them to win.
I love the layers to both of their games. I feel like, I don't know if after BB 5 there was like a new element added to Big Brother Canada, but I feel like every season after this, the Final Two has like a little bit more layers to them, because I love how immediately I remember seeing when Paris got in that alliance with the showmans, her and Jesse, and then Derek and Kayla. I remember thinking, she's just gonna stick with them. And it was very early on that she was like, let me go over here with Maddie and William and get them on my
Right.
side. And not even just over here, it was like a room thing. And she would a lot of times hang out with the other room too. And it's like
Yes.
Paris did a lot of like it just gave these are extra steps. Like I love these extra steps
That a
they're
winner
doing
would do.
that a winner would do. And I really felt like this was like this season was a shift in Big Brother Canada for me. I feel like every season after this it had a lot of an intense like strategic final two or finalist or someone who really had a big impact on the game from here on. So period. Let's get into it though. Because next is I think it's more mothers. Lee, what do you think? They might be men.
But some male mothers? They have to go after the biological mothers. I'm sorry.
Of course. But these are definitely two mothers.
Fathers. Damn.
Fathers. I'm so sorry. These are definitely two fathers. Very, very back-to-back heavy hitter final twos. All four of them need to be in the house together right now. This season.
Actually,
make this the cast. Make this the cast. Make this the cast.
Right. Is that 16?
And honestly, it's enough. It's literally equal women and men. Oh my God.
That's a gag. Of course. This needs to be the cast. Girl, that would be a bloodbath.
Literally. We got the more people we need.
Sabrina and Karen Pound too.
These next couple of seasons, we need some of them too. But hey, this is cute. Anthony Dane. So I guess we can talk about Anthony first since he didn't win. With Anthony's game, it was very. Before I had watched the season, I had heard a lot about it, and a lot of people were like, "That's like you need to watch Anthony's game. That's that nigga. He's the puppet master for real." And I remember watching and thinking, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna keep my eye out for Selena." And at the beginning of the game, he was more so. He's in his little 4-person alliance. They recreated the what is that structure? Oh, I almost said the cookout structure. Well, it is. What the fuck? Yeah, they recreated the cookout structure, but really they were recreating the brigade. And it was the 4 men, it was them, Mark, and Adam, and they were all having their little parachutes. And I remember seeing that Anthony had a lot of parachutes. He was parachuting some of the other people's parachutes because he had a lot of different people who really trusted him, I feel like, the most of this 4-person group. It's just a lot of them were going home very early on. Eddie, Mama, what's that girl name? Kaylin. And then the only person who I feel like really stayed that he had developed a bond with was Kira. And he kind of created that bond over time with Kira. Initially, it was really like Eddie, Mama Kayla, and what is that boy name?
Eddie.
Yes. It was a lot of the people who went home pre-jury. And then
Maki, Kaylin.
Maki is his name. That's what I was thinking of. So he had developed a lot of relationships with them. They went home pre-jury, and then when we went into the jury, it was kind of a lot of Adam's people. He had Adam had his showmance and her best friend, and then Dane had Estefania and her best friend Kiki. Yes, Kiki. Mark didn't have nobody, and then Anthony didn't have nobody initially, and then he kind of made Kira his. I remember, and it's like he had to grab another person to be his number. But I feel like one of the only negatives I had is that all of these people who he had great relationships with, he allowed them to kind of go home, and he still had good relationship with the people in the house, and he created Kira and made her his daughter. But I feel like that just might have just not been enough because when it came down to the jury votes, your people wasn't here. It was all of Dane's people.
I mean, he lost unanimously, which I think is crazy. They really went in on a collective.
That is crazy.
And I think I don't fault him too much for that, only because Anthony is someone who was not a fan of the game coming in. So at those earlier weeks, he was picking up the game. So I don't fault him for realizing too late, okay, these are some of my people, because him having that good social game with everyone, it still got him that problem too. Like there was never a real time when Anthony was like really in any real danger. And I think, and that's really the issue. It's kind of like how Godfrey was. And I mean, I think we haven't gotten to him yet, but Braden is kind of the same way. Like it teeters the line of, okay, you're maintaining safety for yourself. You're working behind the scenes, but are they seeing that? Especially if it's next to someone else. And in this case, it was next to Dane, who, I mean, just from the beginning was always someone that people really, really just enjoyed and gravitated towards.
And I remember the first time I noticed he was that nigga was he also, other than Kira, he made a really good relationship with Corey as well. So he had kind of Corey and he had kind of Kira. And I remember he was using Corey very much so. Corey won HOH, and he was like, I need to take out one of Adam's people. So he convinced Corey to take out Sam, who she was really, really cool with. Corey was very close to Sam, Adam, and then on the other side, she was close to Anthony. And I remember Anthony was able to convince Corey that Sam and Adam were playing her, which they were not, and for her to take out Sam. And that's exactly what she did. She didn't even take out Adam. She took out Sam. He made sure of that. And it's like, he controlled her entire HOH. And then the next week when she was the target, he manipulated Mark into making sure she wasn't the target. And it wasn't until a twist happened. Adam won a third nominee twist that Corey, who was one of his numbers, went home. And it's like, if that situation didn't happen, he probably would have had even another number in the end. And maybe that would help Dane go home and him being in the final two with someone else and he could win. But it was very situational. But that happened. And then later on, when Kira won HOH, he won Kira's HOH. It's like he really did a lot of manipulating that. Someone who has never seen the show, for them to do that was very impressive. But yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, I think they definitely deserve a father. I would love to see both of them play again. I feel like Dane is definitely like he's someone when you see him and how he acts, you don't think that he's someone who can be savvy at this game, but he understood the importance of keeping your people, keeping people who like you. And then can you explain? Because I always fuck up when I explain the Final Four move that he did that kept him in. Was it Final Four?
It was Final Four or five. It was Final Five. So at Final Five, it was Adam, Dane, Anthony, Kira. Adam, Dane, Anthony, Kira, and Mark. Mm-hmm. Anthony and Mark were in a agreement with Kira. So it was Anthony, Mark, and Kira on one side, and they were agreeing to take out Adam and Dane. So what happened was Adam and Dane got nominated, and then Adam won the veto. So that just left Dane, and it was an agreement that Dane was just going to go. We're all three against them. But what happened was Dane was able to convince Kira and Anthony that he should have stayed over Mark. Specifically Anthony, because Anthony was the one voting whose vote he needed. So Dane and Anthony had a relationship this entire time, and they had made a final two in the past. And Dane basically was like, when we made our final two, I was serious about that. And he basically reconvinced Anthony to be his final two again at this moment after they had split ways. And that's what caused Anthony to vote for him to stay. And then eventually Dane and Anthony both ended up making it to final two. And it's like, it's a double-edged sword because Dane genuinely did take Anthony to final two, but also it's like, he beat your ass. Yeah, so it was Dane convincing Anthony. And it's like, damn, you convinced the other head nigga in charge.
And he really ate that. Like,
he did.
I think what makes it so easy to be like, oh, like, he's not using me like this is because how he comes across. But like,
and he does that on purpose. It's so purposeful, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just the goofy jock. Don't be scared of me. And he wins unanimously.
I respect quotations alpha men like Dane a lot more because it's like at least I don't know. I feel like things he does is so intentional. We know he's playing up the goofy jock, and he's actually very, very strategic. And I feel like a lot of other times, it's like they're only a little bit strategic or not even that strategic, and they're not playing anything up. That's just who they are. Like Dane was doing things very intentionally the whole time. So I really did like that about him. Boom. Next, we have Big Brother Canada 8 didn't happen. Well, it kind of did. But we have Big Brother Canada 9. These are interesting.
Bro, I don't know. We should be biased, but I'm thinking Mother. No, I mean, call it what you
okay.
Call it, bro. It would definitely be last in Mother. I would say after Kayla and Perez and after Anthony and Dane.
I definitely would either put him Camp or Mother. I'm not sold on Mother just yet. Okay. I feel like, and let me say why. I feel like compared to the other mothers, it's like, it seems like it's a gap for me.
So maybe top of Camp.
I think for me it's top of Camp, but let me check it out because I might change my mind. Hold on. Okay, hold on.
Okay, and you watched her live, so you definitely.
I watched her live.
You got the connection to it for real.
Do you want to talk about Brayden or let's talk about?
I do want to talk about Brayden a little bit because I just feel like a lot of people definitely try to discredit Brayden. Like I personally thought while watching. Like, I was confused that he did not win. I felt like some of Tyshawn's just jury management towards the end was crazy. And if we're looking at a lot of the previous winners, like, it seemed like Tyshawn was just pissing people off. Like these jurors, like, Canada, they're very open and honest. So I just thought, like, Brayden would kind of like that more respect factor. Like, I thought he had fully lost Beth's, Jed's votes, and I knew that Braden for sure had what's that one lady, Tara.
Tara.
At the end, I thought he could have had Victoria a little bit. I thought he may have had Tina. I was shocked he didn't get Rohan, like because he actually had that relationship with him. I just think that he started off the game. It wasn't necessarily in the best position, and he also didn't seem to be that understanding of how the game worked. But I think Braden's game, like once you see it progresses, you understand what he was doing the entire time, which was ensuring safety. Like I think one of the biggest things was linking up with Tyshawn. Like this was not fully Tyshawn using Braden. This was a mutually beneficial relationship. It's very, as you see, like he started off being best friends with Austin. Then he moved into a relationship with Victoria. Then he moved into a relationship with Rohan. Then he moved into a relationship with Tyshawn. That one got him all the way to final two. So it's like he kept replacing that number one. He kept replacing, okay, now you're my number one. Okay, now you're my number one. And I think they all kind of saw him as the vice versa. They all went to Braden first. They had an idea, they went to him. So I just think it definitely shows that he's someone that's good at realizing his position and knowing that he needs to kind of just have someone on his team, like to have people like protecting him in a way.
Yeah.
And I do think that was intentional on his part. And a lot of people just try to like discredit that as, oh, Tyshawn was using him. And it's like, that's not what that was.
I think I agree. And I think he's
maybe Tyshawn thought, I'm sorry. Maybe Tyshawn thought he was fully using Braden, but Braden was also using
It was mutual, for sure. I think, like you said, his biggest thing is self-preservation. It kind of reminds me, it's kind of hard to think of an example, but I guess a little bit like Bunky. Like, you're mostly, I feel like he's mostly self-preserving, and I feel like that was a part of his issue a little bit.
Like Josh,
but I feel like the issue with Braden, I feel when it comes to the jury votes, and I think the reason Tyshawn got him over Braden is because I think on a general scheme, even though he was making sure he wasn't targeted by anyone, his relationships overall were not that strong. I feel like he made strong one-on-one relationships with the specific people. But overall, I just think it was a little bit more of a vague, we're not going to target him and we don't have no beef with him. And I feel like that was his problem. And I think it's probably because I don't know how much of the game he knew. It seemed like if he would have knew a little bit more or studied a little more of the game, he would have knew to make more deeper connections with each person. But I think it was more so like, oh, we're cool with Braden. But it's like, I think that was where it kind of stopped for a lot of people. And with Tyshawn, I think he had a lot of shooters in that jury. People who were ready to actually defend, because when you get a group of people in the jury house, even though Rohan had a one-to-one relationship better with Braden than Tyshawn, it's more than that. And if there's people in the house all like, bitch, Tyshawn ate this up. What are you talking about? Like, what is Rohan gonna think? Like, he already is like, oh, well, maybe so, And his relationship with Braden isn't strong enough for him to go to bat for him in a way. And I think that was the issue. I think that's what ended up happening with Braden is he just didn't have those people shooting for him in the jury the way he needed to. But he still did play a good game. He is underestimated.
Tyshawn by the end just definitely had the stronger game. I think he just did a lot more as an active member of the game. And I feel like that's kind of where it comes into it. I just mentioned it with Anthony, Godfrey. If you're playing in that way, it's the respect factor that you have to garner. And I feel like Braden, he was really never in a position to garner that. Because I will also say, even if he was using Tyshawn to get to the end, you have to worry about the perception. And I feel like a lot of the moves that he was doing towards the end could just look like, oh, you're just doing what Tyshawn wants.
And they were in tandem, like they were working together, but it's like it's in a Tyshawn is in the above the dominant position. So when you're working together with someone, but one of the persons in the dominant position, it just seems like they're doing it.
They're doing it. It's literally, quite literally, is like how we talked about earlier. It's a regular showman. The woman and the man.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like they're not going to affect the feminine energy in the situation. Everyone wants to give the credit to the male. And it's very annoying. But
that is very true.
Because
but you also gotta account for that. Like you really have to. And
I feel like Braden didn't really put that. Like if he put that in his final speech, like, baby, y'all think I'm sitting here because he used me? Maybe I used him. I knew exactly what I was doing when I joined up with him, and I did this for me. And I feel like he didn't really argue it that way. And I'm thinking about like how to put their games on paper. Tyshawn just had so many more bullet points that could be named throughout that I think a lot of people could definitely come to the conclusion that he deserved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tashawn's game was very strong because he was the head really in the center of the main alliance that was created at the beginning. What the fuck was it called? The Sunsetters? Whatever it was called.
Sunsetters. That's such a cute name.
It is cute. He was in the head honcho position very early on, and then when the alternative alliance was made with everybody else, he still was able to not be really taken out. Like they got created and then they didn't take anybody out. That's what happened. So the Sunsetters still had a lot of the numbers, and the only time they had a hiccup was when Victoria won HOH and she took out Latoya. But Victoria had such a great relationship with Tashawn and Jed that it didn't matter because she wasn't going to take out Tashawn and Jed. And really, that led to the jury being filled with people who were in the Sunsetters, like Kiefer, who was had a greater relationship with Tashawn, Beth, who had a greater relationship with Tashawn, Jed, who had a great relationship with Tashawn, but Victoria, who had a great relationship with Tashawn. It's like he was able to develop really good relationships with each of them, I feel. So that's why even in the jury, when his management wasn't the best, it was kind of like, that's my brother doing this to me. It's kind of like at this point, we're literally brothers.
That's my
And
brother.
you're taking me out. And it's like, I'm mad at you because you took me out, but I'm still supposed to be winning. That's my nigga. I think that's the energy you gave with Kiefer and Jed specifically for sure.
If they was better, I wouldn't have been mad about it. Kiefer definitely not.
Yeah.
Like Tyshawn, when he did flip, it was to save Kiefer a little bit. So Kiefer definitely can't get mad. But Jed and Beth, I'm shocked that they were not just bitter because the way this man turned on them, I have to mention it every time. It would make me think this man needs to get checked into a mental facility because the way it was a complete 180. It was like he hated
it was stone
Beth.
cold.
I'm like, do you hate this girl? What happened? Like, but it's that realization of like, I need to separate how I feel about them from what I want. I want to win this game. And I can't win this game going to the end with this showman necessarily. It's just not in the cards. But the way he just like, it was scary. Especially being Tyshawn and how he presents himself. He's a very happy-go-lucky dude. You don't think he's thinking about the game on that level. And to know that he is and the lengths that he's willing to go. Like people, loyalty to a lot of people is over everything. Like there are people
who was cutthroat.
Will sit in that game and be like, I have to go to like a good example with Hannah Tiffany. Like Hannah is a very smart player, and she was like, I don't know if I can cut Tiffany even though I want to win. Because loyalty is a big thing. Like I don't think I could cut Pharaoh. I'd be like, I'll send in. If he wins, he wins. You know? But the fact that he was like, fuck loyalty, bitch. I want the money, honey. Yeah. Like it's
and a part of it was because he felt like Jed was going to start taking Beth instead of him, which I think was a possibility.
Definitely.
So it helped him shift.
He used veto on the girl.
Yeah, it helped him shift his perspective, and I think honestly that help was good, and it was more so him realizing it. And you know what I was going to say? The reason I think the Brayden relationship is so much more Tyshawn heavy is because Tyshawn had the upper hand. He chose to no longer work with Beth and Jed, and then he instead worked with Brayden as his number one. And it's kind of like, dang, you like was going to go to end. You had a set final three, and you were probably going to win against Jed in this final three, and you chose to let them go and just work with Brayden. Brayden had no choice. Brayden didn't have a choice. Tashawn chose Brayden, bitch. And I feel like that's why it seems a little bit more active on Tashawn's side. It's like you could have just went with the group you was with this whole time.
True.
And you went out of your way to take out these people because they were threats, including Kiefer. You ended up taking out at the end after you took them out. And then you went with Brayden to the end, and Brayden was your genuine final two after turning on your entire Sunset. Brayden wasn't even in the Sunset. There's 7 niggas in it, and none of them did he end up taking. And it's like it's very interesting gameplay. Like, and it also shows Tashawn's like
it's risky too, because you can turn on all of those people that you were in this close relationship and alliance with, and they still vote you. That's risky.
Yeah.
A lot of people would not have voted. A lot of jury probably would not have voted Tyshawn. In the way he did it, see you in jury, Beth.
Yeah. And I think he had to have I would hope he had an awareness of the fact that they were still going to vote him. Like, I think he knew Jed and Kiefer were still going to vote him regardless. I don't know if he knew about Beth or whatever, and he should have known Victoria was too. But it also goes to show like this was the first by POC rule season, and it also goes to show that the people who he turned on, Jed, Kiefer, Victoria, they're all people of color or Black. And I feel like the fact that they were still willing to vote for him, it's like, I don't know if this would have been the same thing if this was a Black man turning against a group of white people. to try to get to the end of the game. I don't think he would have had an understanding with them or a relationship with them deep enough for them to still vote for him. The reason he can still be friends to Kiefer to this day, still be friends to Jed to this day, is because they are genuinely friends with people like him in real life, I feel. And I feel like he wouldn't have had that luxury if it wasn't for the BIPOC rule. So glad that happened. He was the first Black winner of BB Canada. They're definitely camp. We're here, bitch. I know that's right.
Period. And that's why I want to put them in mother. But you're right, camp.
Yeah, like they don't make me do it. Shit. Nah, I think camp is still a great setting. I'm gonna keep them there. Next is okay.
I think this one will be hard.
This one is gonna be hard. That's why I said okay.
Well, now let's not drag too bad, girl, because Josh Daddy, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna.
We got BB Can 10. This is BB Can 10. My boyfriend Josh. Shout out to Josh. And Kevin.
This one hard because I feel like not trying to drag. I do think Kevin alone I would want to put in mother, but I don't think I do think Josh kind of brings it down slightly.
Okay, I see that too. And it's not a drag. Kevin is I think Kevin will carry it to mother for me because Kevin is the best Big Brother Canada player in history in my mind.
Yeah.
And might even ever. BB Canada and US. So I mean put a pin in that. But he is very, very good as a player, and I think that I do like that. And I feel like Josh to me is already camp in between camp or mid, or maybe just
definitely. I would definitely make camp immediately if he won.
So that's why I'm like, I think they might make it to mother just because of Kevin. But let's talk it out because you never really know.
This is our first Canadian season cover, and we covered BB Can 10.
How interesting! This was a very intense season. It was a lot going on, race wars happening. You know the tea. That's the typical now. But
right. There's gonna be a race war every season, girl. You used to it.
We could talk about Josh because what I will say about Josh's game in general is I don't think it was a bad game.
No.
In general, I think he definitely had good qualities. He was clearly very good socially. Even more so, it's weird when we get players like Josh because I think with Josh, his social game isn't visible through the screen. There's people like that. There's people who have a social game that is obvious and everyone knows you're a great social player. And then there's people who have a social game and it's like, you really need to kind of tell us. Like, I feel like kind of Daniel C in a way. I didn't know he was that great socially until Claudia and then we're talking about how much they liked him,
Right.
And I feel like same with Josh. I didn't know he was that great socially until everyone was literally throwing up and crying and finna punch through the wall when he got nominated.
Week 3?
Like, fuck.
Week 3 that week next to Stephanie and they did that blind side it was
everyone blindsided like 2 people. Like
literally, it was literally everyone agreed to keep him except 2 people, the 2 idiots, Gino and motherfucking Jason Lidd, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like no player is able to garner that type of just love, overall general love in the game. Like there was no way he was going home in that week in retrospect. So Kyle was just straight up delusional now.
Yeah, very, very impressive. And even more so, like, I know when it came to the strategy of this game, it was really Kevin who did a lot of it. But what's interesting is Kevin chose his people. And he ran, like, to me, it felt random that he chose Josh, but clearly Josh had a great relationship with Kevin. It's like Josh's relationships were very OP because Kevin decided, I want to work with Josh and I want to work with Helena. And these are the people who I feel comfortable working with. And it's like, I feel like a part of that is because Josh's social game. He had a relationship with Kevin and it garnered. And I feel like that's good. He also had a relationship with Helena. So it was able to
quite literally everyone. There were times with Gino and JC Lynn and Marty were like, we want to work with Josh. And I feel like I didn't make this comparison at the time because I just didn't think about it. But Josh is so comparable to Matt in so many ways. And it's like if Josh had one BB Can, I wouldn't have been upset because at the end of the day, a social game, no matter how active it is, it takes the cake in Big Brother. Yeah. Like the fact that everyone just likes you, I mean, hell, give you the motherfucking money. But I think, and that's like my disconnect with Josh Games is that there wasn't any activeness with his social connections. And I wish that quite literally, if he just was the one moving the pieces, using his social connections to get to the end, he would be a better player than Kevin. Because socially, he is just that good. I think Kevin has to work for the social ability that he has. Like, he is not going to just naturally go in that house and get in those alliances and get in those relationships just because the archetype he feels. Whereas Josh can do that, but Josh just did not kind of have that upper hand to start moving those pieces the way they needed to be moved.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like with Josh, what really brings him down for me was the triple eviction performance because it's different to us to kind of just assume he's being ran by Kevin but in the back of my mind I was always like I don't think he'd do it to Betty. I don't think he'd do it to Betty. I think he still prioritizes Betty over this lesser good situation. And then when he ended up pawning her, I was like, okay, clearly you don't prioritize Betty. You prioritize Helena and Kevin. And it's like, at least only just choose one of them. Why both of them? So I feel like that to me really solidified to me that he didn't have the understanding, or I feel like maybe just not the savviness or the cutthroatness to really, I feel like, take the cake with this game. And then we saw it happen in the end when he ends up choosing to take Kevin over Betty. It's like you just don't have that cutthroatness. I feel like you need to be like, I want to win. I'm going to do what I need to do to win. I feel like I never got that from Josh. It never felt like Josh wanted to win this game by any means.
Like a
It
sense
just
of
felt
urgency almost.
like an emergency. It's just like I'm here. I'm cool with this. I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here, and I'm just gonna go to the end with Kevin and Helena. And then it was like Betty had to convince him not to, and then he was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just go to the end with Betty. But it's like, what do you need to do to win? Pick and decide and be right about it. And I feel like he never had that, and that's what makes me bring him down. And that's why it's making me. It is giving camp, isn't it? For me, like it's like as a final two, I'm like. I'm comparing final twos. You might be.
And I think it's because Kevin, I mean, he just monopolized the space. Like I just think like he was actively forcing Helena and Josh, who are two great players. That's the thing. If you go back, you'll see us drag Helena and Josh so much. But quite literally, I swear, it's not because we hate them, but it's because we see their potential and we see how easily they let Kevin run over any path that they had to actually winning the game.
Mm-hmm.
And with Josh, it's like the fact that Kevin was able to do that all the way up into the end is just like crazy to me, because no one expected Josh to take Kevin to the final two, and the fact that Kevin was able to convince him of that, like it chips away at his game. But it's mainly because
it adds on to Kevin's, who's also in the final two, and it's like, oh, well, what do we do?
And it's like Kevin, he's such an iconic player in that way. Like he was able to he used them for their good qualities, and then just trampled over everything else.
Yeah, very much so. He used them like you. Ooh, that was so nice. He really used them for what their qualities were. He knew Josh had good connections to everybody in the house, and I think that's why he chose Josh. Same with Helena. At that point, Helena had good connections with everyone in the house too. Right. He chose the two people with, I'd say, the best connections with everyone in the house, and he sunned both of them and had them very much so doing chores for him. He told Helena to tell Marty and JC Lynn and Gino something. And with I would say he didn't really tell Josh to do a lot of stuff sometimes, but he did tell Helena. He sicked Helena on a lot of people. And I feel like it's like he really understood that these two people have this amount of control in the game, social control. And I feel like he kind of leached off of their social control. He ended up creating a bond with Summer after knowing Josh had this relationship with Summer and Betty. He ended up making a bond with Summer and Betty. And he was like, honestly, I want Summer and Betty towards the end game. And they ended up in it towards the end game. And then he already had his bond with Gino, JC Lynn, and them. But it was even stronger when he was able to create this group of people over here. And then there was a group of people over there. But I'm still going to be cool with them. And I feel like Kevin was very meticulous about everything he did all the way to the end. And him being able to reconvince Josh to take him to the final two is the most insane thing I've ever heard of. And I don't know how that was able to happen, but it did. And so I really do think Kevin has
and then that's the thing. It's like, it's hard because like this final two, Kevin is directly affecting Josh's legacy.
Yeah. So and it's kind of like,
I'm looking at Dane, Anthony, and Paris and Kayla. Like, I don't think that's happening. Like, they kind of stand on their own. Where I feel like Josh doesn't fully do that because Kevin was taking so much of what his game is, and that's why I feel like I have to put him at camp. I just feel like he doesn't fully stand on his own almost.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Because I do see the argument that Kevin is that girl to where it's like he automatically puts him in mother.
To me, I see that argument, but I do feel more of the camp. I do feel more of the, when I'm looking at the final two as a whole, which is kind of what we're doing, we kind of have to group them together. And when I'm grouping them together in my mind, it's like Kevin alone is at the top of this list, but when they're together, I think because of Josh's individual legacy, I feel like he's someone who his individual legacy isn't really that high, you know? So I would put them maybe at the top of camp or even below Tashawn.
I agree at the top of camp.
I like the top of camp. I really do. Almost some others. I feel like if Josh would have done like one thing, I don't even know what. Honestly,
I mean, this should
if
be
at
Josh
the
and Betty,
triple,
and
if
they would
at the
be another.
triple, Josh just didn't nom Betty, I probably or just didn't. I feel like everything he did kind of led to this being this. I feel like they're on the cusp of mother. That's what I'm saying. I feel like
I'm
they're on
just
the cusp.
saying, if Josh took Betty and we were doing Josh and Betty round two, they
They
would
would
be in
definitely.
mother.
They would be number one. They would actually be probably. But hey, we here. The last thing is the last pair is Claudia and
Shall we
Ty,
just
which are
saw
some interesting. There are also
them?
some interesting ones. I'm interested
Very,
with
very interesting.
Claudia. With Claudia, I feel like we recently saw her game. We did this too. We recorded this too, so that's fun.
Right.
Claudia's game was first of all, when people started coming out of the house, I kind of understood Claudia's game a little bit more because we heard from Kuzi and Daniel C and Ty when we interviewed them that Claudia did have a social hold on the house that I feel like was a little bit less understood watching it. It's like we kind of knew, but we kind of didn't. But I remember at the beginning of the game being impressed by Claudia because at the very either the first or the second week, I want to say Renee was nominated. And I remember her making a relationship with Jonathan and telling Jonathan, I'm not voting Renee. And I'm going to make sure that everybody in the house knows I'm not voting Renee because then they know my votes will never go that way. And I was like, oh. And then her relationship with Jonathan, I was like, oh, these are two very interesting things I feel like she did very early on. And it made me like aware, like, okay, she's somebody. And she at the beginning of the game, those first like 3 weeks, it was always like Claudia. Like Claudia was there, she was protected. She always had like her hands in something, and then she developed this relationship with Ty, and it's like, dang, this girl she has her hands in so many different pots, and it kind of faded away throughout the season, and it ended up just being her and her girls, the girly pops, and with Claudia, I think it's like she starts off at a high, and then her game kind of went down because she had her girly pops, and that was still okay, but then she started allowing Ty to take out her girly pops, and she was helping take out her girly pops by nominating them and evicting them and voting with Ty and not nominating Ty. And then she ended up in the final three with Ty and Daniel, and then she takes Ty to the end. And it's like by the end of her game, it's like the legacy that she probably could have had, or the impressiveness that she could have had, it like really went down to the almost the opposite. Like you're almost unimpressive. And I feel like that was the issue with Claudia's game is like it went downhill. You just ended up going with Ty and doing what Ty wanted. And in a way, this is a little not similar in the sense that they're mother or camp, but Kevin taking away from Josh's legacy, same thing. Ty directly took whatever Claudia's potential was.
And I was going to literally make that comparison. I think Claudia kind of compares to Josh in a way to where it's like, and you see this with a few self-preserving players. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes this is not manifesting where they have to do something, but a lot of times with these self-preserving players, it comes to a point where like you kind of need to step out of that and start taking control of what you want to do. Take control of your destiny. That sounds cliche, but basically that. Like you cannot just allow the game to move around you anymore. And I felt like there was a time where Claudia should have stepped up as the leader of the Girly Pops and said, well, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to start handling things. And she kind of just submitted the power to Ty. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you're now being perceived as someone that's just getting ran by Ty, which, I mean, Claudia damn basically was. Like, no shame at all. Like, she, especially the double, where he literally convinced her to take out her closest girly pop.
Yeah.
And after that, she didn't do anything else. The week after, and that's why both girly pops left the game, not even fucking with Claudia like that, because they're like, this bitch just...
She's just a bird.
Like, literally, she didn't even help Renee go home, but the week Renee went home, it was so obvious from Renee's perspective that this girl don't give a fucking shit about me.
Didn't even try.
She's just up under Ty. So it's like, she is definitely someone, if she had stood up and became that leader for her group, for herself, you know, I think a lot of people would have respected her, and I think that's what I saw. And I thought the move that would have put the nail in the coffin for that thought is if she took out Ty. I was thinking if she can get to final three, cut Ty, she can win the game. But that was not even her intention. She literally wanted Ty, then lost. Because I'm thinking you can use the argument.
You won.
I used him. I knew there was no way I was going to be able to beat him in all these.
She did. Didn't she say that? She tried to say something along those lines.
She tried to argue, but it's like the actions don't really
You just
align. You just took them.
Please.
Like, what are you talking about? So it's just like, yeah, no. And see, I was leaning more towards Camp, but like I do think it's way more worse than Josh's situation. Like I think Claudia just kind of she submitted full control, basically.
Yeah.
And it was just like, girl.
I was thinking that too. At first, I was like, okay, low camp, but now I'm thinking high mid because also Ty isn't I think Ty's win was, I don't even know what word I want to use. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't amazing in terms of gameplay. So that's why I'm like, maybe not even camp, maybe just mid, because I feel like Ty's win was almost similar to Kevin in a way of, and you said it earlier already, in a way of, I mean, you just won the comps, but with Ty, it was impressive and it was more showy because you needed to win. He needed to win a lot of those times, and then towards the end game,
he didn't study for him.
He didn't study for him, and then he also did strategic things that worked. No shade to Kevin, but he literally strategically made sure Shania went home at the time she did. He made sure Anika and Dane was trusting him, and he garnered a lot of the jury votes because of, I feel like, his relationships with them rather than sitting next to a dud. Like a lot of the jury said Claudia was not a dud. Every time I asked them, I thought they thought that. They did not think that. They genuinely respected Claudia. So Ty won against a well-respected.
That's why I'm like, ooh, maybe it should be camp, because I low-key feel like maybe like mid, Sabrina and Karen are in mid, because like the people who won over them was because those two were seen as duds, and Claudia isn't a dud.
Claudia is a dud. She just wasn't seen as a dud. And that's where I think I'm conflicted because no, it's not even no shade.
I would argue that she's not even necessarily a dud. I wouldn't even say she necessarily. She understands the yeah. Yeah,
that's what it is. But you're right.
That's true. But I just think she understands the game on a certain level that is able to self-preserve herself all the way to round 2. You know, there was never really a time that Claudia was in danger at all. And I remember during the ratings, we'd give Renee and Shanae low scores, but Claudia maintained the 6 a lot. One time she hit that 7, and it's because we really be fucking feeling tea. Because I remember there was one point we were saying, Claudia needs to step up, baby. It's time to really start taking these relationships and doing something with them. You too calm. You too, and she never did that. She never did that.
Yeah. I'm still in the middle because because you're right. She did have a lot of great qualities. And Claudia is someone who I think honestly would be a sleeper on a returning chance if she would ever get that.
I agree. She the showman for sure. No showman.
Yeah, please. But she would be a sleeper because she is a good player, and I feel like she's someone who people don't think is really a good player. I think for me, it's like, honestly, I think for me, I'm so confused. I think what's confusing me also is Ty as a Ty in general. I feel like I'm not so high on Ty, but I'm also it was a fun kind of win, and it was kind of impressive, but a part of me is also kind of not because you were targeted for so long, but also it's kind of impressive. So I'm in between the top of mid or the bottom of camp. That's how I'm feeling.
I feel strongly for the bottom of camp.
Okay. Well then I'm definitely okay with that. I'm satisfied with that. Let's go ahead and do that.
Because like it's on the cusp of both for sure.
It's on the cusp.
But I just feel like I don't feel as low as Claudia as a player as I feel about Sabrina and Karen.
I kind of feel this. I feel similarly. Okay.
And I will argue, I do think John's a better player than Ty, but it's the combination.
That's how I felt too. I think that was what's confusing me because I was like, Ty isn't good enough, no shade,
he shouldn't be ahead of John on any ranking, basically.
Yeah, I didn't feel like he could carry them. That's why I was like, maybe top of mid. But I think this is still fine. I feel like it's more of a, you got to blend them together. Camp and mid are right there, y'all. Like Ty and Claudia are right there they're really on the line rather than actually fully like they're on the line. That's kind of how I feel. Same with Kevin and Josh. They're kind of on the line of Mother and Camp. Like blend them in, blending. But
all right, girl. So this is the tier rank. Okay, let's go through. Starting with Chop, we got them brothers and Kelsey. And then we have mid. At the top of mid, we have John and Sabrina, and then we have Karen and Kevin. And then we go into camp at the top. It goes Kevin and Josh, then Tyshawn and Braden, then Gary and Jillian, Sarah and Godfrey, then Ty and Claudia.
Mhm.
And then
And
now
then
we
the
have
mother.
the mother section. Kayla and Paris, of course.
Of course.
And
The
then
mother.
Anthony and Dane.
We ate this up. We ate this up. How would y'all rank
There's
these?
only 2 final twos of the same gender?
Yep. Everything else, I noticed that at the beginning. Oh no, 3.
Because there's a
4.
lot of male final twos, right?
Yeah, 4.
I was
'Cause
tripping. I was
them
tripping.
two. But I did notice there's a lot of female male versus in Big Brother US. I feel like we don't get too many of those.
We got a
And
lot of
also
male.
a lot of these female whales we got, or some of these we actually got a woman winner.
And you know what too? I think I was looking at Anthony and Dane as these 2 alpha bros, and I'm just like, Josh and Braden are not these alphas, and I don't see Kevin or Tyshawn as alphas either. So it's not that same energy of like these 2 men.
So many unique winners, but only 3 women have won, and then the other 7 are men. So there's that. But we need some more women winners. We do.
We need some
I
more
feel it coming. Maybe the energy's in the air.
Next season has all the new era.
Season.
All the new era have been men. The BOPOC era.
Yep. So
we need a BOPOC woman.
We do.
So,
we do. We got one in BBUS.
Koozie going to win All Stars. Duh.
Oh, you're right, girl.
Anyway,
it should have been Koozie last season.
Koozie icon too for All Stars. Can't wait to see it.
Icon not coming back. Let me know.
She's coming back, bitch. I will give her my check for the next.
Oh, please, Lee.
I will starve to get Ika on All Stars.
Starve is crazy.
I will.
I might too. All right, y'all. This was a good one. We'll be here next week.
Fun.
We'll be here next week, and then we'll also be here for the Big Brother Canada cast reveal if they ever do one. And then for this entire Big Brother Canada season, we will definitely be here around. So stay tuned. Tune into all of our coverage for Big Brother Canada, and Survivor 46 is coming up, and the Amazing Race 36 is coming up. So tune in for all our coverage for all of that. Thank you for keeping it real with the kingdom, and we out, bitch.
Wow.